What? You want to fight crime? Let's get dangerous.
And welcome to another episode of what's it called? Clever title pending, or so you think.
It is not that than Nevermore, I think. I don't remember. Hi.
Well, yeah. Hello, everybody. And yes, do not adjust your computers or everything. You're not seeing things. You're not imagining. He is actually here. We got Brian K. Morris here with us tonight for our discussion topic for rise and fall of the diamond distribution here. But before we get into that, and people already, they already say it already.
I've missed you, Parallax. How are you?
So before we get into the goodness of all of what we have to say, we still got a little bit of business here because we still do our normal thing here, such as, I need to get Parallax out the way here. We always still shout out Stupid O'Clock, which happens 1 hour into the show if we go into a second hour, which is followed up by Last Man Standing. And then you get a little bit of a respite until Monday for Nevermind the Furthermore with the, I don't even call him a replacement host anymore because he made it his own show. Nicholas Talkert and Nevermind Furthermore on Monday. And eventually we get Brian back for the show that he created, Comic Book Spectrum, which is now here on Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern, 8 o'clock Eastern. But before we get into our topic, I was telling Brian today we're going to do this live because he's here and we're going to probably talk about some of the books too. It is that favorite time of the week that people love about this show, which is new comic book pickups for the week. And we got a decent little box here. So we're going to go through real quick. Not going to try to take up much time. We're just going to kind of go through them here. We're going to start out with Jughead number 151.
Nice.
That's a nice one. And then we got Spider-Woman number 9 from volume 5. And then a blank sketch cover. You guys know what I do with blank sketch covers.
They blew that. They didn't put any art on the outside. They made you pay American money for that. Good God, what were they thinking?
Well, you guys know what I'm going to end up doing at a convention sometime soon, or if I get a commission here. And then we got the old school issue number 2 of Spider-Woman right here.
Yes.
So I'm still trying to finish up the collections for Spider-Woman and Red Sonja. This
Beautiful.
Is issue number 2 from the 1970s. See, Brian is having flashback to.
I have flashbacks a lot. Yeah.
Yep. And then we got Totally Awesome Hope number 1. This is, I forgot which variant that is, but this is like a Gwen Stacy, like a Gwen Fang Foom issue here.
Yay.
And I'm still trying to finish up volume 2 of Doom Patrol. This is the Doom Patrol that most people may remember from Grant Morrison, the evil one, Grant Morrison. And for those who know me, know why I call him the evil one, because have you ever tried writing after him? The dude creates some great stuff and makes it just about damn near impossible to continue what he created.
That's true. Although Rachel Pollack did a great job following up on this. Yeah. I really enjoyed the title.
Yep. So we got issue 28, 29, 55. I believe that is 60. 77, and then we got Black Panther Worlds of Wakanda number 1, which I was greatly missing here. But there is more.
Ooh.
We got Weapon H #1. That's a new series I haven't written by Greg Pak. Greg Pak did a good job on a volume of Storm. I know that much. And then we got more copies of Jaguar. I actually have a full run of it. I think I'm working on either a third set or fourth set here. So that was issue 4, 5, 6, and this one I might end up getting pressed and graded. Why? Because it's the hard to find newsstand version of the annual.
Nice.
All the issues that I have been seeing of the Jaguar have been direct copies, and this is the first time I ever seen the annual. And then when I looked it up in COZ, they didn't even have this listed as there's a possibility as a newsstand copy.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
So that was kind of cool in a nutshell.
Very cool.
And then on that note, I was able to finally finish volume 2 of a series that I really wanted to read and enjoy throughout the full entire run of it. But we're going to start out with issue #4 from volume 1 because I already had that one. So I have the 2 variant copies of issue #4 from Faith.
Nice.
And then I have the full run of Faith for volume 2, starting with all these different versions of issue 1.
Nice.
Including the coloring book one. I opened it up. I was like, it is black and white, so you could color inside of it. I was like, that is neat.
That's a great idea.
But, I'm not going to color in it. Issue 2, issue 3, a variant of 3, 4, another issue #5. I think that was around the time that there was an election time.
Yeah.
6 in its variant. 7, dealing with the parody of Rosie the Riveter. Nice. 8, 9, and here's the issues that I didn't have before, which is issue 10, 11. Oh, wait, I had 2 copies.
You two tens.
2 10s. This is 11. And the most elusive issue 12 that I couldn't find until I bought a whole set of it.
Nice.
And
Faith was a good title.
Yep. Another full set of books that I'm happy that I now own a full complete run of, because I've been trying to piecemeal it for the longest. And I finally got the issue that's been eluding me, and that is Mystery Quarterly.
Oh, great.
So now I got another copy of issue 1.
Yeah.
Another copy of issue 2.
Nice.
3, 4.
Yeah.
5.
Yeah.
6, 7, 8.
Yeah.
9, and the ever elusive issue 10.
Yeah, because nobody buys those last issues.
Hard to come by, but eventually somebody had a full run of it.
Oh, cool.
For the low price of $25 for the whole set.
Oh, wow. That's a steal. That's a great series. I love mystery.
I had to.
Oh, yeah.
It was just no other way around it. I had to get that particular series here. And then we're going to end up with another series that I thought I wasn't going to end up collecting, but we got a couple of books ahead of it.
Okay.
So we got a reprint of Dazzler 1, but this is the blank sketch cover.
Right.
The new this is the reprint by Skybound for Transformers #1 from Marvel.
Right.
And then we got the new G.I. Joe #1 from Image Skybound, which has the Cobra logo on it. This is like my second or third one. So if you see sketch covers, you guys know where I'm going to end up doing. I'm going to go to probably a convention and draw something nice on them.
Yeah.
Got Wonder Woman 1, George Perez reprint here. But now we get into the series that I didn't think I was going to try to get into, but I sort of did. Yeah. Which is Micronauts. And we're going to start off with Micronauts #1. But we don't have a complete run. We just got random issues here because it was sold out as a lot. 13, 16. I think that's Psycho Man.
Yep. Psycho Man from the FF Annual 5.
and then 28,
Yeah.
35, 51, 52. So now we're getting towards the end of the run here.
Yeah.
55. And then we got 56, 57. Two of them. I think 57 or 58 is the last issue here.
Mm-hmm.
And there it
Right.
is, 58 Triumph, which is I think is the last issue of Micronauts. No, I take that back because I'm looking at 59.
Maybe not then.
Yeah, 59.
Better check the next one before you make any bold claims.
No. I know what this one is. This is Special Edition 5, which is completely different run here.
Right.
And then issue number 2 for New Voyages, which is volume 2. Volume 2 is always New Voyages.
Nice
So
stuff.
that is pretty much new comic book pickup sort of weekend. Let's get to our comics. I know people are saying a whole bunch of stuff here. So we got Victoria here, came to keep us company. Cool. So everybody say, yay. Yeah, new bookies. I have all the Spider Women's. Yep, you do.
Spider Women's.
Making Amadeus Cho the Hulk the way that they did speaks volumes as far as what they wanted to do with the character. Amadeus Cho as a character is a great character.
Yeah.
But to make him the Hulk, a Hulk the way that they did, to me, kind of, if I could say, hurt his reputation. Going from like one of the most intelligent people in the Marvel universe to somebody that was trying to be something other than himself in the long run.
Yeah.
And, I have read several issues of Totally Awesome Hulk. And I like the fact that he invented a device that allowed him to control the gamma radiation that flows through his body. But also at the same time, him being kind of like girl crazy and wanting to be kind of like bombastic and show offish. That's not Amadeus Cho. I'm sorry, not the way that they wrote him originally in the Hulk books. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe they're trying to do something different for the younger crowd, but that's what I see here.
Yeah. Yeah, that was one of the series I kept reading, and the more I read it, the less I liked it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I get it.
So pretty much it's like, oh, I sent you 3 photos.
Thank you.
Beyond the King MODOK. Yep.
Me.
Ooh, it's like #worth. Cobra.
A woman of few words.
Yes. But I know what she's looking for here, because she wants one of those newer G.I. Joe sketch cover, because she still want Eric and myself to do the second half, I believe, of the Marvel version of, I believe it was G.I. Joe 57.
Okay.
Where Baroness was over the front part of a his tank.
Oh, right. Yeah,
75.
75.
See,
yeah.
she doesn't forget 75. I got the numbers transposed here. I said 57. Yeah. I know it was a 5 and a 7 in it.
Yeah, I broke down and I bought that. I didn't get the physical copies, but I got the downloads of the entire Marvel G.I. Joe run.
Oh, so you see, they did. What did they do? They did that whole Kickstarter.
Yeah, that was the one.
Speaking of which, I still have not received my Darkwing Duck as of yet from that
really?
Kickstarter.
Oh man,
I haven't received a lot of stuff from Kickstarter, so that's why,
yeah,
I'm kind of bitter. But at the same time, it's like, because I understand what it takes to do a Kickstarter,
right?
Then I'm still debating the next few books that I release. I'm probably not going to go to Kickstarter.
You've talked about that in the past with me, yeah, that you may bypass it. And I've talked to a number of other creators who are, thinking the same thing. I think we're starting to see in crowdfunding, you get some people who can just ask for anything and they'll get it like within 20 seconds, and then you get other creators who I think probably got started in crowdfunding about the time that the lockdown happened in 2020, when everyone was a captive audience. And so, yeah, the shops aren't open. We want comics. Let's throw some money out and get some fresh material, through the mail. And then I think it's a combination of a couple factors, just my personal opinion. One, the shops, of course, opened back up. We're getting regular comics. And until recently, in the last couple of months, there's been pretty steady flow of comics. And plus, I think a number of people saw that some people were getting into, and this is just my theory, that they saw a number of people who were getting into comics via crowdfunding and realizing that a number of them just weren't very, very good. Because I admit that, like 4 years ago, I was, supporting a lot of comic companies. And then I sat down and started reading them. And I'm like, I'm really disappointed by this. This is not quite what I expect from a comic. And say what you will about Marvel and DC and Image and some of the, the folks that have their own section in the previews, they have a minimal standard of professionalism that they adhere to. And I just didn't see a lot of that happening, especially since I'm an editor. And, like I used to say on Comic Book Spectrum, I look at this comic and yes, I know who it is, but how does somebody just coming in not, how are they supposed to figure out who these people are without any help? And they're not getting it from the editors and publishers. So I think that was a part of my distaste with a lot of them. And I've, of course, pared my comic books down drastically as a result. I'm just getting the stuff that brings me joy, as they say. So,
well, actually, like I tell a lot of people here, and being a part of certain communities and everything dealing with crowdfunding, it's like being on the outside coming in.
Yeah.
And the reason I said being on the outside coming in is like I came from comic shows and putting yourself out there and not having that avenue to be like, here, give me big bag of money to print a book.
Right. Same here.
And I'm up here like, okay, I could do this now and ask for money to get a book printed. And I have already established something and I'm having a hard time doing it because I don't have an audience on that platform.
Right.
And I'm like, why am I doing this? Why am I developing an audience that may not travel to a Comic-Con to see me or to buy a book for me if I choose not to go that route ever again?
Exactly. Yeah. You're right.
It's just kind of like one of those things. And it's like, that's what I'm balancing now, because it's like, I'm not seeing new people coming my direction. I'm not making a whole bunch of money. I've been making pretty much steadily the exact same thing from the same people that are doing it. And I'm appreciative of that.
Oh, sure.
But in the bigger scheme of things, it's not bringing people to my website. It's not bringing people to this show here to talk to me directly, to say, hey, I don't like how you're doing this character. We talk about the character and stuff like that. That's the whole reason why we have that's a small press publisher to talk about these types of things here.
Oh, I get it. Yeah. Might be.
The thing from Backer Kit paid my $5. They didn't even take my $5 for the extra shipping and everything. It's just, I never got anything back from it. And this is coming from what I consider somewhat of a reputable publisher, which is Dynamite Entertainment.
I'm
just going to be like sitting back, kind of like, it is Kickstarter. It's never guaranteed that I'll get my books and everything, but I see that the books and stuff are about to get ready to hit stores and have hit stores. So
yeah. And I think that's another potential source of alienation, because like I've seen a number of creators like do a Kickstarter, then they get their comics, and before they do the fulfillment, they go, well, I've got this convention this weekend, so I'm going to sell all these comics. And, they may say, I'm going to take out the ones that, are committed, and I'm going to take the rest. But I know a number of people that would see that and say, wait a minute, I gave you money. I'm probably paying more than what you'll get at the show for that book.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you treating them to a first look at the book that I paid for? So,
Not even first look. It's like first come, first serve. I was first in line.
exactly. Yeah.
Why am I being moved to the back of the line here
Yes.
when I had VIP treatment coming in the door?
Exactly. Exactly right.
That's unprofessionalism in that aspect, in my point of view.
Oh yeah.
And it happened with a couple of projects recently where it's like, they're not really trying to ask people or hunt down people for their surveys. And when you do send in the surveys, you're up here thinking everything is okay. And then next thing you know, it's like, why is this book on the shelf? I never received it. It just makes me don't want to use the platform, use that platform ever again. It's like, to me, it's not just Kickstarter, it's just crowdfunding in general.
Oh yeah.
It's just too many of them is doing that. That's kind of like commonplace. And it's like, I've been in this field for a little time, and it's like I came, during a time where crowdfunding was not in existence.
Yeah.
And I'll probably be here after. But it is what it is.
Yeah.
I noticed that many small crowdfunding please people that there are 90 to 100% ready to print when they start. So the bigger ones take so long to finish to get to print.
Yeah. And some of the bigger they are in the industry, sometimes the longer they take to get to print. I got to give a shout out to Carl Kessel, who does one of my favorite books right now, Impossible Jones, that he's doing it via Kickstarter mostly. And he's good with the communication. He's right on top of everything. And when he tells you that stuff is coming out on time, it does come out on time. So he's really good about fulfillment.
And on that note, it's like us as the smaller people, we have to be on point because we don't have a name out there. We don't have that luxury to say, I'm such and such, trust me, I will get it out there. You love my stuff over here and you love my stuff over there. Just trust me. We don't have that, that leisure or that privilege.
Yeah, trust me, bro doesn't go far these days.
We have to come out there, for some of these platforms, like a Kickstarter, be like, here's the PDF of what we're sending over to the printers for us to, get past the one part that a working prototype has to be, in the workings here, or you have to have something to show them before you can go out there.
Yeah.
So, it's a lot that goes into it.
That's true.
And say, I want a big bag of money.
So does Unky Joe.
Yes. And there's Elaine. Elaine is here.
How you doing?
Yeah, Brian is in the house.
Elaine probably doesn't think I exist.
Yeah, I get Beyond the Cave Modoc here, and yep. And there's Don. How's it going? Yeah, BKM means Rob Liefeld is taking 9 years to fulfill. Surprisingly enough, people got that Brigade one, and they were not happy when they finally got it.
I heard
Brigade one did come out, and that that to me says a lot here. So that's one of the reasons why I'm up here. Like, it's like, why am I going through this here? And it would be different if I was seeing steady growth in an audience over there.
Right.
Then I would be okay with it and be like, okay, I understand why I'm doing it because I have a captive audience. When you don't,
right,
and you're doing everything in your possible will to do shows like this and to put yourself out there and everything, and no one's really paying attention, and then you go into conventions and saying, here's my mailing list, and then you talk about what you're doing here, what you're doing there, and then you get to the Kickstarter, and then that's when you see people going unsubscribe.
Yeah. True.
It's only so much you could do. Only so much you could do here.
Yeah.
So everybody's greeting one another. It's like, great, later. Sorry, I was talking with my oldest. It took 9 years. Yeah. But again, we don't know what he's doing with those 9 years, but it is. It's like, dude, publishers, artists, you have money, editors.
Yeah. If we had Rob's money, we'd throw ours away.
Yep. Yep. 9 years. Yep. and she's asking how Elaine is doing here. But
Cool.
with that being discussed and everything here, let's get to our topic here.
Let's.
And this is dealing with the rise and fall of Diamond. But before we go into Diamond itself, I believe we need to open up the door to talk about the direct market, because you have to understand the direct market in order to understand the distribution aspect of it.
Yeah.
And
yeah, and the funny thing is, I think most of the people here, except me probably, I'm the only one who remembers when there wasn't a direct market.
I don't know. Because I remember getting some of my comic books from an actual newsstand.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You know, that I remember a time when there was, you know, you got them from a drugstore or a supermarket or a bookstore. We didn't have the direct sales thing. I don't think that started until about 73 or 74 with Phil Seuling and Seagate. So,
right.
In fact, I remember I used to work for a place called the Book Nook in Champaign, Illinois. It was the first full service direct sales outlet in East Central Illinois. And I remember our distributor was somebody who got they were out of St. Louis, but they got their comics from Seagate. And this guy, I'm not saying he was unprofessional, but he used to print out his invoices, wrote them out by hand on pages. You know those little desk calendars that you flip?
Yeah.
I'm serious. He would write on that because it had lines on it. He could keep the lettering straight. So we switched not long after that. So
wow.
Yeah. Oh, the stuff I could tell you, the places I've been, the stores I've seen.
Okay, so now we're seeing it's like she sent me a picture. Yeah, I'm a tad depressed, but I ain't dead yet.
That's good.
Yeah, because she was definitely around before the direct market.
Okay, all right. Well, I would never presume that of a lady. So
Beanie says, "Look at Doggo picture." Yeah, before Dazzler 1. Yeah, way before that. Yep. It's like that was the big comic store direct market push.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is that that push really didn't come from stores. It came from the publishers, because you have to think back then, Marvel and DC, which was the big two back then, were still distributing their own comics. And DC, in their infinite wisdom to make more money, you know, did what they did. They started to slowly cut off comic book stores from buying directly to them, from them, and forcing them to distributors, and then forcing the distributors to compete for their services to have their books.
Yeah. Well, and also around that time, I noticed that a lot of stores used to be like you take all your products, figure out how much you make, and then how much subtract your rent, and there's your profit, your other expenses. But then I noticed, and I think this started with supermarkets, where they would compute it by the square footage. Like, does the square foot, the one tile that the comic rack sits on, does it provide enough of a profit to justify it being there, as opposed to maybe somebody who will pay you to put like a cardboard stand up with a rack of canned peas in there?
Right.
Which one will get you the more money? And also with the canned peas, you don't have to change, you don't have to maintain it every week. You don't have to pull the old stuff off and put the new stuff in. The peas will sit there and be good for a good long time, whereas comics, at least at the time this started, had like a 30, 60, or 90-day window by which they could be sold. And if they didn't sell like in the first 2 weeks, they were probably going to sit there for the rest of that time. So,
And then the whole thing about the covers and resubmitting to get refunds and all the extra stuff.
Oh, the credits and all,
It wasn't like food. Like,
right.
You used to use peas. I was thinking like candy bars or like licorice or something like that. Like,
same thing.
Put up like you said, a cardboard stand that has nothing but Twizzlers.
Right.
You don't have to replace Twizzlers every month or every 2 weeks or every or every 3 months if it's a quarterly.
Right. And it's not like you can say, well, I'm tired of the food distribution system. I'm not going to do food anymore.
Right.
Whereas you can cut off a comic pretty easily.
So, that was kind of like, one of the things that, oh, also, before we get into it, I just wanted to bring up one of the sources that I use here.
Yes,
And
yes, please do.
yeah, and that's kind of like one of the things that I want people to go out here and kind of read it when they have the chance. Now, this is from Miles High Comics. If you know about the Miles High Comics super comic book store, the owner, Chuck, I can't pronounce his last name.
Rosansky. Rosansky. I met him one time. Really
Oh,
nice guy.
I met him at San Diego Comic Con, and we actually talked about this.
Oh, cool. I met him at
I actually had a chance to sit down and talk to him and thank him for doing this 9-part evolution of the direct market. Because without reading, this here from his point of view, I would have never understood how the distribution that we had, and I'm using in quotation, had actually worked.
Right.
Actually worked, and how it worked against all entities, all parts of the comic book industry.
Yeah. And I know it because I lived through it. So
yeah. So it's out there on their website here. It's up under, I believe it's called Tales from the Store or something to that magnitude. And if you go down that listing, you're going to see where it says evolution of the direct market, and it's in 9 parts. Read all 9 parts, because this goes all the way back to like the 1970s when DC first was talking about, well, we're going to start our own direct market, and we're now going to rein in on everything. And then they was like, people have to come to us to get our books here. We no longer going to be offering through catalogs and this, that, and the other. And then they say, it's like, well, we can't maintain all of these orders anymore. So now we're going to go back to the distributor routes, but now we're going to have to get certain percentages and this, that, and the other. I mean, he broke it down. He broke it down as far as how it worked.
Yeah.
But the other thing that he also breaks down is how a lot of the comic book stores went belly up as a result of the direct market.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, as we were talking about before the show started, a lot of comic stores, a lot of them were badly run. I was telling Joe that Marvel introduced a program in the 80s where they would actually give a cash register to a shop. No strings attached. You don't have to pay for it. They bought like a slew of, bottom of the line cash registers. But still, it's a little more professional look than using like an old like a bait and tackle box to put your money in at the end of the day. Yeah, and make the businesses run more like a business rather than like a hobby or a cash grab. Which a lot of people had this idea that when comics were on the rise, and comics all through history have been doing this as far as sales, rising up and then plummeting down, and comics are the best thing ever. Oh, the end of the industry is nigh. So understanding the cyclical, not understanding the cyclical nature of the business, they would get in thinking, oh my God, that just the money will just start flowing in, and no, it doesn't. Not in all cases. So
and it's
the same thing with distributors too in the 80s.
And it's scary. It was very scary, but at least with having you here and pointing them to this source, everything could get validated.
Oh yeah.
To the point where, okay, now we understand, we have actual good talking points, and you could go to other people who've been in business, and they could kind of confirm that a lot of the stuff that we're talking about is pretty accurate.
Oh, yeah.
It may not be 100% their experience, but it's pretty accurate to how the system works here. Let me get through a couple more comments here. It's like, back when
that's why she and I get along so well. Yeah,
they're like that jokes.
Yes.
There was no response to stores opening up and selling back issues. Diamond wanting to start a monopoly. Actually, that's a misnomer, and
Yeah.
that got proven in those 9 parts here.
Mhm.
That monopoly was thrusted upon them.
Yeah, they didn't plan. I don't think they planned it. It just by the mid '90s, that's how it wound up. You know, from a
All the
certain
other
point, I'm
ones
sure it became
was
a plan
folding.
to tie up the market, but you know, which didn't help anyone actually. You know, overall.
Yeah,
Oh, I will tell
yeah.
you, it did help. You know, if you had just like unlike now, where you have like a 2 or 3 people you can get your comic books from on a monthly basis. Comic book shops like that ease. A lot of owners, give me convenience or give me death. And I knew a number of them that they would read like the Marvel. They'd read them when it was all one catalog. They'd run the DCs in order. They'd run the Marvels in order. Maybe they get to the Image in order, and then they stop reading. Even though a lot of the people who were in those 3 opening sections had stuff in the green section in the back.
Mhm.
And also you could pay like 1 check every week rather than make out 3 checks. It just takes up a little more time now. But I've heard a lot of people. Well, I used to be able to just place 1 order. I used to have to just write 1 check a week. Oh, woe is me. It's like you know it's hard to be sympathetic when you see how other people run their businesses. That do have multiple sources of product. Yeah, they have to. They have to make multiple payments. They have to stay on top of all of it. So like Diamond.
Mhm.
Like I saw, what is it last week? I think in Bleeding Cool, where they listed the major debts that Diamond has right now, and they owe like $1.7 million just to Todd McFarlane alone, and
Mhm.
he's like number 7 or 8 down the list. There's I can't remember, but there's somebody they owe like something like $10 million to. So
Yep. It's like I will be okay. We're not going to say the actual number, but
yeah,
happy
sure.
birthday next month.
Happy birthday, Elaine! Next month, yeah. Trust me, all 365 days, you're going to hear that Beatles song in your head.
Yep.
Trust me.
And there is Aaron,
I
aka the psychotronic squirt gun. Welcome on in, and then we know,
not
and no,
compared
you're
to
not. You're
me.
not really. Yep.
Not compared to me.
And then I swear she got jokes tonight. She got a lot of jokes.
She's on fire. Hey, Ron.
Joko. Trying to do Joko. But then Aaron saying hi to Leia. It's like, girl, you are going to get me in real trouble.
As opposed to fake trouble.
It's like, no, I show BK.
I'll tell you after the show, Joe.
It's like, yeah, I call them mall how prices comic. Yeah, they are pricey on
Yeah.
their website. They are very pricey, but they are quote unquote accurate to the sources that they use, which is still probably mostly Overstreet, more so than anything else.
They are good graders. I've ordered from them in the past, and yeah, the prices are a little elevated, but they can get it. So
They have it in the grade that they said that it is.
yep.
9 times out of 10, when you go to a grade company, it is exactly that grade.
Yeah, or it'll be a little bit higher. I have found, they don't
Plus,
go below not in my experience. I haven't ordered from them in years. So.
plus they own pedigrees.
Yeah,
I think they have a pedigree, so they
yes, they
pretty
do.
much know what's what here.
Yes, they do. Indeed.
Fight me in real life. Chuck is a good guy. I don't think he will want to fight you. I don't think he want to fight you at all. Yeah, the history of the direct market. That's what we're talking about here.
Yes, indeed.
I was born in the middle of the crash in 1994. He was born in the middle of one of the crashes.
Well, yeah, there have been a number of them in my experience.
One of them, that's the one that you can remember, but there was more. There was more of them.
Yeah,
and that's the thing. Technically, Diamond did not create their monopoly. The monopoly was created for Diamond by DC and Marvel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I will point out something that is a sticking point with me because I watch a lot of legal shows on YouTube and stuff. Diamond was never a monopoly because there were other outlets that were distributing the same, like toys and paperback books and games, enough of which that they could not legally be called a monopoly. Now, they had a stranglehold on the industry. I will grant that, but they never had a monopoly. It's kind of like when Staples back in 93 tried to take over Office Depot through a hostile takeover, and the Federal Trade Commission, because I worked for Office Depot at the time, or no, it was 95, excuse me, thereabouts. But anyway, the Federal Trade Commission put the kibosh on the deal because if it had gone through, then they deemed that the Federal Trade Commission deemed that Staples would then have a monopoly in certain markets, and too many of them. Whereas later on, when Office Depot was bought up, like in the early aughts, I think it was, the Federal Trade Commission looked at it, but now by that time, Walmart had started selling more office supplies and school supplies, that they were enough of a contender that Staples, even with buying, Office Depot and I think Office Max, whatever, no longer would have a monopoly. They would not dominate the industry because Walmart was involved. So that's why I get really technical on calling Diamond a monopoly. It was never legally a monopoly. It's just a term that's thrown out too often.
People also forget one other thing here, and you brought it to my attention, and the thing about, like you said, the legal term of monopoly here.
Right.
Diamond was a virtual monopoly because of the simple fact that DC and Marvel also had books at Scholastic.
Exactly.
Scholastic had their own distributor, and they're their own distributor and everything. So they didn't have the sole 100% control over the comic market because they had those books, or I call them books as opposed to comic books. Comic books have UPC, actual books have ISBN, because Scholastic had those IBSN numbers for the collective volumes of certain books.
Yeah.
They can't say that they have, I think if it gets to like over 80% or something like that, I forgot what that magic number is of a total market, it can be considered a monopoly.
I don't remember what it is either, but it has to be like a substantial amount of it. Well, Scholastic is, there was a really good video came out about a month or two ago about Jeff Smith and Bone, about how I don't know if you saw it, but it was about how his business really shot through the roof when, showed how he had started out with single issues, then he moved into trade paperbacks, and then he got hooked up with Scholastic as his distributor, and it's like zip, rocket to the moon time. So
I was raising babies next to no money. I was rarely bought books at that time. Yep.
Understood.
I'm not the government. Tell me.
Here's a check. It's a little symbol like that.
She got jokes tonight. She's
mad tonight, I tell you. It's great. Say that number.
Say it.
There you go, Victoria. That's right. She shops at the same place I do.
Yep. Hey, Victoria, I forgot that you was even here earlier. Yep. Tori, half off at Miles High.
Tonight's episode is brought to you by Mile High Comics.
She's on a roll tonight.
She is.
I miss off. Yeah, I do too. I was a bigger fan of Staples than, well, no, I wouldn't say Office Depot. Office Max, I couldn't stand. I couldn't stand Office.
Yeah,
Max. Office Depot was okay, but I was a big fan of Staples.
I like Staples after I worked for Office Depot for 4 years.
And then it's like good advice, Victoria. Yep. BK can't get that through Van Allen.
Well, last time I tried, I turned orange and rocky. It was really not a good look for me. So hey.
And she just shakes her head. Yep. But getting back to the topic at hand, but understanding that Diamond did not create the monster that we had to deal with in this industry.
Yeah.
It goes back to how I kind of have like mixed feelings about them going away or this whole bankruptcy filing, because I saw how much damage that they did.
Yeah.
Not only to people who buy comics, people like myself who published them, people who sold them, all because of kowtowing to the people who made them. And when I say kowtowing to the people who made them, it's like if it wasn't for DC, Diamond would not have had the control that they have for so many decades. Because even you remember that, we had like Capital City, all these other bigger top distributors that would allow you to buy books.
Oh yeah.
But because of the premiums that they were getting, and they have to maintain certain numbers of sales for DC to distribute, for you to be a distributor for DC,
right?
It became like a Highlander competition. It's like there could only be one.
Yeah, I was going to say that it wasn't that Diamond had a business plan that made it end up being the only game in town by design. They were more like last man standing because, like I said, a lot of distributors went under one after the other, especially in the 90s when DC signed up, with, Diamond as an exclusive distributor. And then Marvel had their own operation with Heroes World. And then everybody else is scrambling. And that's how, the really small regional distributors wound up falling by the wayside because they couldn't get the product. And also Diamond created a situation where, like, if you owned a store, Joe, and I wanted comics, but mine was running out of a phone booth. And I didn't have the capital or the room to carry a lot of comics, but I had people who wanted to get them from me. Diamond had it so that, it used to be in the back in the day, you could sell me some comics. I just add my order to yours. I pay my share, give you a little extra. But Diamond made it so I guess I heard they gave it up after a while, but you would get the comics, but you would not be allowed to sell them to anyone else at a wholesale discount, which, further got their hold, so that, like you said, you'd have a lot of really, really small shops that couldn't get any product. So,
that's
they dried up.
End up doing with small publishers too, because we will have our books, and then it was like, no. They would come knocking on your door. It's like, hey, do you want your book in our catalog? And we'd be like, yeah. Now we have to go through a review, and now they're up there thinking that they're publishers. Right. So you will go through their process, and now they're looking through the book. It's like, if they don't like your book, you're not getting up in there.
Yeah, they were gatekeepers.
Or if they see that you can maintain a certain shipping schedule, it's like, yeah, we'll give you a chance and everything, but they'll make you pay through the yin yang for advertising and all this other stuff in the catalog, which should be something that they should be doing anyway. We as a publisher, we still have to advertise and everything, but we shouldn't have to do advertising for ourselves plus your book, whatever's in previews. We shouldn't have to do that. And if we complained about anything inside of previews, that's in your contract. We're not getting enough sales for your book to maintain your listing here in preview. So hasta la vista to you.
Yeah, and that and their standards like that, I know through other publishers, was kind of arbitrary. I had a friend of mine who did a fan magazine, let's call it, really slick fan magazine. I mean, it looked like it was high quality, like a Starlog or a Future, something like that. At the time, it was a $7.95 price tag. He was selling 15,000 units every time. They dropped him. Said he wasn't selling enough. And it's like, if you're selling 15,000 of anything, I'm going to be nice to you. You're evidently doing something correct. But
exactly.
yeah. So, but they and I know that I've talked to some people where Diamond would just tell them, okay, you can't have this kind of story. You've got to do this. You can't have you've got to fit it within a specific size even. Because not all printers are built the same. And, the direct sales shops want, that's why one of the reasons that some of the weirder iterations of comics, like the Treasury editions and the digests, they're hard to rack. So, a lot of comic shops pushed back on that, and Diamond enforced that with a lot of the publishers. So,
okay, we getting a couple of new comments here, and I don't want to get people. I don't want people to get lost in the conversation here. So it's like you're still the idol of millions.
Thank you, my people.
Yeah, Office Depot was closer by. Yeah. I agree too. I went to Mile High this week. Same old Mile High price.
Everybody's getting it. So.
Yep. Don is what I consider a collector's collector. He knows a lot.
Cool.
And goes through a lot of different sales and everything. So he knows a lot.
Nice.
So when he says that there, yeah. See, Don is on my team. Yep. When does Mile High have a sale? Very rarely. Yeah. I know in the 90s they used to have a lot of sales. Now, not so much.
Yeah. Although they were useful to me when I was doing a lot of articles for like Back Issue Magazine from Tomorrow's, I would say, yeah, I'll take that assignment. And then it's like, oh crap, I don't have a single issue of that series. So and I could get like reader copies at a fairly reasonable price from Mile High. And that's where I learned to appreciate reader copies.
They're good, and very good is better than a lot of people's consideration of good and very good. So yeah.
I agree.
It's like online they have sales, but like I said, bring down the prices to slightly above average retail. But then they are great graders. My comic shop is really good at grading books too. Yep,
I dealt with them.
But yeah, Greenland is a store that she made me aware of.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
cool.
I forgot where they're located at, but they don't have as many books,
right, as
some of the places that she just mentioned, like My Comic Book Shop or Miles High. But their prices are very, very reasonable, more reasonable than most other places.
Cool.
And I have a 20% off code that works for years. Yep.
Nice.
But that's where we're going with getting back to the topic, going with what's happening with Diamond and the bankruptcy. Because now with them, I believe they're going chapter 11, if I'm correct.
Chapter 11, which is reorganization. It's chapter 7 you don't want them to go into.
Actually, I was hoping for them to go into 7.
And why is that?
And the reason being is because I rather for somebody to completely buy them out and for them to restart over from scratch.
I see.
Than to just reorganize.
Yeah. I can see your point. The only problem is somebody would have to have really deep pockets to take on the amount of debt that they've got right now.
The thing about it is that the debt is still going to grow regardless, because of the simple fact that they have to be able to reimburse all of these different publishers. And I'm not going to say just publishers, but you have publishers and manufacturers.
I was going to say, because you got McFarlane in there
the
too.
Product that they already have.
Right.
And you have to understand, technically they're a warehouse.
Yeah.
And what happens when a warehouse goes under? Everything gets liquidated.
Yeah. Yeah, so and they've only got one warehouse
not really
now.
As big as a debt. It's not going to be as big a debt as most people think. And since it's also a reorganization, there's no guarantee that policy is going to change either.
it's probably going to have to change, because otherwise they're not going to whittle down that debt, and then they are going to go into Chapter 7. And that's, and I don't want to say that Diamond is too big to fail.
Mhm.
If they go, it wasn't until recently when I saw their travails that I realized how far Diamond had fallen. Because you probably remember what time when they had like about a dozen warehouses across the country, including, and some like in Great Britain and such. Plus they own like a games distributorship. They owned a couple of sub businesses in there too, which they're now liquidating. And I'm thinking that's where they're going to get their money to whittle down the debt they have for people, to certain people. But the one nice thing about competition, I'm a free market guy. I admit it. I'm a total free market guy. And when you bring in competition, it forces people to up their game. Now, Diamond's been resistant, was even back in the days, was kind of resistant to it, because they thought they were king of the walk here, while other places were like going under, left and right. But it wasn't until we had like Lunar, which, by the way, I live 2 hours from Lunar's warehouse. And you have no idea how I want to do like a Mission Impossible kind of break in on the place. Operations like, but it's one of those things where, Diamond, I have heard, has gotten better about their shipping, because Lunar was doing bubble wrap, and making sure things looked, shipped well, for the most part. Whereas when I managed to shop in Champaign, my boss and I kept, making this joke that how they stock their stuff was they take a bundle of comics and they see an empty box about 20 feet away, and they're like a free throw thing.
they're out there. They're about like 30 feet out. It's like, here, look. Cream out the draw, Skyhook.
Yeah, 3-pointer with the new Teen Titans. Yeah, their shipping has always been pretty bad. Although the boxes, I got to say, I still own some Diamond boxes. Those things are sturdy. Those things can hold some weight. Yeah, it's just when you pack them, like a gorilla. There's not much. You're protecting some damaged comics is what's happening. It's the problem. So. But it forced the Diamond to get their, to up their game just a little bit. But
the policies that I was talking about is dealing with publishers, because you are made by the bigger entities.
Yeah.
But you pissed on the smaller guy.
Yep.
And those policies have to change in order to survive, because without the smaller guy sending you books for you to be able to sell,
right,
there's nothing that you could do. The big guys are going to be around regardless, because they could jump from place to place, place to place, distributor to distributor, by handshake, nods, and winks, and a big ass check. If I could excuse my French on that, but a big ass check would be like, okay, now we got Lunar, now we got Scholastic, now we got this person who has no idea how to ship comics and do all this other stuff, but because they cut the big check, they're good.
Yeah.
So those are the types of things that I was hoping that a Chapter 7 would bring, because that way, with new people in there, they're not going to go back to old policy.
Yeah.
Because to me, it's like what they did with the green section for all other books other than the big 2 or big 3.
Yeah. Well, and I agree with you. I've heard many people say that, they ought to focus more on the smaller, on the green section, on the smaller publishers, especially since I've noticed a trend in the last 15 years or so, as far as creators go, that you start out small, like at one of the indies, and you show the big guys, I can do this. I can make comics, and I can do it regularly with a certain amount of skill. And then you get a job at DC or Marvel or Image, or like one of the special section ones, and you get a title that sells fairly well, sells consistency, or you become like a Jonathan Hickman, or one of those big names, okay, that can carry a book on their just on the weight of their name alone, do some good work there, stand out from the rest of the crowd. Then you go back into the indies where you can write your own ticket and take more control of your intellectual properties. Um, you don't go back into the indies because you can't just, well, maybe not only just because you can't get work at the big two, because they are so, always trying to find the next big name.
Right.
But, you see a lot of guys like Greg Pak does a lot of stuff. Even some of the people who are writing mainstream books like Ram V, Dan Waters, people like that, are still moving to smaller publishers. So, don't discount the back of the book, because that might be somebody that's following, that might be following those names. Like, was it that one? There's one company, I'm blanking out on the name right now, but J. Michael Straczynski writes for them. And I like JMS's
Well,
work.
no, shoot. First thing that came to my mind was Ahoy, but that's not it.
No, I want to say like AWA or something like that.
AWA one shot, but then again, they also had Frank Cho, and some of Frank Cho stuff at AWA Upshot has not always been that great either.
JMS's stuff has been pretty good. They've also had Michael Morisi did a book, and it was kind of like, and all of their books kind of in a subtle way interconnect. So you have like a shared universe, like the early Marvel comics, but you also have like some of the better artists, like Mike Diodato does a lot of work for them and such. We're thinking the same people. I just blanking out on the name. But some of the stuff is very high concept. Mark Russell writes a lot of stuff for them. But Mark Russell's another guy. He's done stuff for DC. He's done stuff. I think he's still doing stuff for Marvel, but he works for Ahoy. He writes My Bad, which was I think one of the funniest titles out there. It brings me great joy. But he does stuff for this AWA too. That's a little bit higher concept. And Axel Alonso is the editor-in-chief, who used to be the editor-in-chief at Marvel until about 10 years ago. So, but if you follow a name, and you like a person, you're going to follow them back into the indies if that's where they're working, where they can maintain maybe a little more control, do stuff that's a little more personal, stuff that really, resounds with them. So, I think if Diamond's smart, they'll pay off their debts, but they will, and kind of become like a clearinghouse, maybe like, okay, place one order through us and we'll get it from Penguin Random House. We'll get it from Scholastic, and we'll just, you cut one check and we'll make sure everyone gets paid. Because then they're dealing with people who are bigger than them, like Penguin Random House,
right?
Who will tear them a fresh one if they don't pay. If they don't pay up.
But that gets to what I was really getting at about changing the culture,
right?
Because even right now, and you have been to shows and panels where you have retailers yelling at the top of their lungs to Marvel and DC about writing better books, but at the same time, you got people who are sitting in these panels from Diamond, not saying it's like, oh, why don't you buy this book over here where it's such and such that you love is writing this book. They're not highlighting who's doing what for anybody else other than the big three or as I call it now, it's like a big six that you could call now, as opposed to back in the day when I was smaller, when you were smaller, it was only big two. Now by the 90s it was big. By the end of the 90s it was big three, and in this day and age in 2025 we could probably say big six.
Yeah. And of course then again you have like, in terms of ranking, it'd be like Marvel's here, DC's here, then here's the next guy.
Right.
There is a huge distance between the top two. Between the top two, they control like what about 2/3 of the market
of the American comic market.
Of the American comic market, right? That's true. Yeah, if you go into the foreign markets, there's some manga that makes they sell more.
I think it's Viz Media controls like 80% of it here in the United States as far as distribution is concerned.
Yeah, but you take something like a manga that sells internationally, and they, like at one point Naruto was selling more copies per issue than entire lines. They were selling like, crazy numbers.
but Naruto was never sold as a floppy. It was always sold in
No.
volumes. You had pretty much graphic novels, bite size, little bitty digest size,
Yeah.
120 page volumes of Naruto that kids could read. So, it's a, and, shout outs to Randy Zimmerman. He always was talking about, it's like, maybe we need to reinvestigate things such as format.
I have said that for years. That I remember about 5 years ago, there were a whole bunch of independent creators saying, "Oh, we've got to stop Diamond from distributing manga in the country because those are our sales." And I was like, "No, they're not your sales, because if they were, you'd be getting them." What you need to do is, instead of trying to figure out how to keep them out of the market, you should be figuring out what they're doing right, and you should do it too. And I think you hit on the subjects right there. It's an affordable package. Yes, it's a little different, size than what people are used to, but it looks good on a bookshelf, and you get like a satisfying amount of story with it. Whereas too many mainstream comic book floppies are still writing for the trade. They do these 6-issue arcs. Marvel will do like 4 or 5 or 7 or whatever, but mostly 6-issue arcs that after the last one comes out, 1 or 2 months later, the trade paperback comes out, usually for $1 or $2 cheaper, and it'll last longer.
But that also makes me sad about one other thing.
Yeah.
And and maybe the day and age of for this is over.
Right.
There is no such thing as a true ongoing series anymore, because everybody is writing these shorter arcs to make a quicker bang for the buck.
Exactly.
And to me, if you're going to have an ongoing series, your story arcs really more is just plot points to a bigger end.
I agree.
But yet at this point in time, you have those that are in marketing saying, no, we got to chop it up, say that this story arc is its own self-contained story. We're not going to talk about anything that's surrounding it or the background of why this is a place in the overall history of the title. We just like, this is just one story arc. Enjoy the story for what it is.
Yeah.
And manga, it's ongoing.
Yeah.
You get one volume. You get one volume of it, and you might get several different story arcs in one volume.
Yeah.
And it makes you want to continue to read the adventures because it continues on. It doesn't just stop
grows
at one point here.
Yeah, it grows.
But it looks like we got more and more people talking here. So let's get back
let's
here.
do that.
I'm a firm believer of a fully interactive show. So
what? Where did you pick up that idea? What's wrong with you?
So it's like Spaceballs is chapter 11. Yeah, you knew. It's like, and it's like, so Aaron was saying nice as far as what they was talking about with Dream
You're on
comics.
Elaine.
So like,
we're going to Fort Wayne, Indiana, girl.
Yep. It's like when you get, when you go to break in, it's like you need me as your muscle. Yep. So she gave him the link here. It's like, yeah, J. Michael Straczynski is good, but
that's why I love
BKM as far as the 3 initials guys, he's up there. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let's see. I don't think they know what that word is. Ha, Sale talking about Miles.
No, Sale. He's that guy that drew the long Halloween.
Yes. Oh, I gotta stop. I was like, I gotta stop looking up what books JMS has out. Yep.
He's written Captain America, Fantastic Four, great run of Spider-Man, and also Superman, Wonder Woman. He's written just about everything, plus other independent things like Rising Stars and such, which I'm in the process of rereading.
And we got Mr. Calderon.
JD.
Yes, I haven't heard from him in a long while. So I do know that he still does Talking Comics on a Sunday.
Yes, he does.
I do catch those shows. I just don't say much in the chat anymore.
Same here. I ghost on a lot of shows. I just don't because my problem is because I don't want to say that I'm all that, as I always say, but I get on there and suddenly the show stops so everyone can say hello to me. You notice that?
Mm-hmm.
Like tonight, I'm sorry, but it's, and I appreciate it, but it's
well, tonight is a little bit different because we've been kind of both stopping the show a little bit, but
it's true. That's true.
It's not like how it is. It's like And by the way, we got Brian K. Morris, and then everybody's like, "We not worthy. We not worthy."
It was more like dial 911. Dial 911. He's escaped. JD, it's good to see you, brother. Miss you, man.
Yeah,
You and Daphne both.
Green JD, and it's like my oldest love manga. Mangaka gets away with more respect in Japan than creators here. Yeah.
It was marketed better because we've always marketed comic books to kids and people of diminished reading capability, whereas manga from the start, they were literate and they marketed to children, but they also marketed to adults. You know, same like with France and Italy and other places.
I'm about to say Europe is more known that it is adult reading. It's not, it was never meant as a kid's thing. It was adult reading from day one, but it's a little bit different here.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, good point.
Don't forget to follow Joe and hit this like and help the algorithm, please. Thank you so much for that here, Parallax.
Yes.
Yeah, we're all yep, we are. I agree, JD. I agree.
I'm about to turn 69 in a month and a half, so yeah.
And I'm not looking forward to August.
Why is that? Which one is that for you?
Half a century.
That was a good one for me because I could say I was half a century old. Now, right now, your 50s is okay, or actually your 60s, because I can say now I'm a sexagenarian.
Okay.
And then next year I'm 69. The jokes may now commence. You know.
Yeah. Everything is going into the tank.
Yeah, take me. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's like the old pulps from the 30s, 40s, and 50s. You know, that was the same way. They had action adventure. They had romance. They had erotica, spicy stuff. They had sports. They had airplanes. Anything you could think of, somebody would put out a magazine about it. And manga's the same way. You know, it's really fun to see what they put out.
And who would have thought I would have somewhat success with pro wrestling?
Exactly. See,
you know, it's something for everybody out there.
Yeah,
it's a matter of packaging it and putting it out there.
And that's the way it should be, I think.
If you like fishing, they have some. Yeah,
exactly. Right on. She mocks us with her laughter.
It's like it's like you guys rock for old guys.
And you rock for a very, 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 very young person. So
yes.
Nothing but love.
No, he's about our age. Aaron is about our age too. So.
Oh, is he? Oh, he's aged better than I have. That's for sure.
Yeah, the literacy rate in this country is awful. I do agree with that here.
Yeah, unfortunately.
And it's not because people can't read, and we know that people can't read. Mm-hmm. It's just not, if I could say, pushed.
Yeah, anymore. It's not encouraged.
Everything is like you need to read enough to read a screen. You need to read enough to read, quick blurbs.
Yeah.
But when I was a kid, and this is one of the things that, my mother used to always take me to all these different programs and stuff because I had it wasn't that I had low reading comprehension.
Right.
It was what I was comprehending was not translating to what people may ask me of what I read.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't low. It was like, it was askew because I had high mathematical concepts. I understood math at a way higher level, like high school level, but my reading comprehension was just below or at a grade level below me.
And mine was the opposite. I was a great reader, but math eluded me for many years.
And then it took a long while for somebody to realize that part of my problem is that I kept seeing language in a way where you kind of see things being said the exact same way, and it's like neither one could be right or wrong, and it's like, well, that's confusing as heck.
Yeah.
If you could say something 5 different ways, who to say which is the right way?
Exactly.
So it came out in my writing too, and it was up there. It's like, once they helped me fix a lot of the grammatical errors and stuff like that, they would always say, it's like, why are you so argumentative? It's like, why don't you say it this way? Because like I said it that way. What's wrong with this way?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they could never give me real reason why I couldn't say it that way.
Right. Yeah.
Math has straight logic. It had a
Right.
defined definition or logic behind it.
Yeah.
Writing, as well as how you read something, came to interpretation, which is not always, straight to the point.
Right.
Or
Right.
logical.
Yeah, true.
Oh man, I thought I was the oldest. Nope. Mm-mm.
Not when I'm in the house.
Not wrong. Yeah, there's no kid. No, it's like no kids get left behind. Was terrible. Yeah,
I agree.
That was after my generation. That was just a tad bit after my generation.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that it didn't start with my generation. I'm glad I got through elementary school by the 90s.
I barely survived new math in the 60s.
Your new math is not the new math that they're putting on kids nowadays.
Oh God, no. But it makes as little sense.
Public school hasn't evolved since 1994. Like,
way to bring us back to the subject. Way to bring us back.
Yes.
And JD makes a great point. Yes,
uh-huh.
JD, you hit it right on the nail. Not enough people, in my experience, are being taught that you can read for fun. And like when I was a kid, I didn't read. My first book real book that I ever read was Frankenstein by Mary Shelley, which probably explains a lot about me. And I read it because I wanted to read it. I read it because I was a fan of the movies. I wanted to read it because it sounded like fun. Putting dead people together. That sounds like fun. But from there, that just opened up all kinds of doors, not just the classics, but like the pulp reprints of the 60s like Doc Savage and The Shadow, the adventure paperbacks of the 80s like Mac Bolan and The Destroyer, and any sort of like The Penetrator was one of my favorite ones. That was a good one. Just reading just to turn your brain off from the real world or to find another world to be in, whether it's the Hyborian age or the far-flung future. It's something comics embrace, but not necessarily any more books. And like has been pointed out, the educational system, I think, is losing people that way. And I say that having grown up in a small town where our school system was not academically oriented. We were being trained basically to work in factories. You wake up when you are told to, you eat when you are told to, you leave when you're told to, and you do what you're told. That was my schooling. That's why I didn't get along with anyone.
See, now you're making me think, how you had that zest for it.
Yeah.
I didn't get a zest for reading until I was introduced to things like Choose Your Adventure.
Oh, I still love those books.
And the reason being is that the classic novels, though that they're good stories, it sometimes take you a long time to get you into what's really going on. While Choose Your Adventure is like you're thrusted into something here, and it's interactive because at the very end, after you get so far, it's like you got to make a choice here. Do this person goes here or does this person goes there?
Yeah.
And a lot of ones that I used to like was like there was the ones that were branded Time Machine.
Yes. Oh yeah.
You actually was jumping through different stories, and the stories will let you jump through time to actually show you what actually happened. It's like one moment you might be in present day, and then you might jump back, 2-3 days later because of something that you did was either incorrect or correct here to try to correct the problem that you were given in the very beginning. And then the sports ones were always the most funnest ones here. Like, big league baseball managers, like, how you get through like the playoffs, you have to get through two games in the playoffs here, and you give it actual breakdowns. It's like your players and everything, and you read and you get to the point where it's like you're actually there, you're actually making a call, you're actually you feel how it is on like a
Yes.
television broadcast and
Yes.
everything, and you're being that Tommy Lasorda, or Earl Weaver, or you know, any baseball manager that's
Right.
there, and you have to make a logical decision based upon not only statistics but your gut feeling too, because you're watching how people, you know, they're telling you how people are reacting. So it wasn't just, oh, based upon stats go this way. It's like, yeah, this person might be a 400, you know, 400 hitter and have an on base percentage of 600, but you just caught him drinking alcohol and he's been slugging, you know, sloshing, and he
Yeah.
hasn't been able to stand up. You need a pinch hitter. It's like, do you put him up or you put the guy up who barely hits like, you know, 100? Knowing that it's like you've been trying to get him encouraged because you know that he has potential.
Right.
You know, those are the types of books that I love, because it's like you have some interaction there. It allows you to really develop your imagination and put you into the thing here. And you know, to JD's credit, I was like, yeah, there's different ways to enjoy reading.
Yeah, and like a real book, every time you read it, it's a different book because you get something different out of it. So yeah, I totally get that.
And say I read a post on Facebook a bit ago where a college professor was talking about a student who complained about the amount of reading in their class as they never finished the entire book.
Yeah, and I've got a good friend who it's probably been 15 years since he read for pleasure. What he reads, like he reads stuff for his job. You know, he'll read like a training manual or something, but he doesn't read for pleasure anymore. So, but which is a shame. Which is a shame.
I feel like the last great hurrah for printed word was release of the Harry Potter series. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if I may, since these days I mostly prose as opposed to comics, although I keep my hand in, go to the independent books areas. You know, like my own stuff. You know, a lot of stuff is very superhero oriented. Like right now, I've written like an action adventure book that's kind of like a little bit James Bond, a little bit The Prisoner for Flinch Books. A Quest for the Delphi Oculus, available on Amazon and Books A Million and Barnes and Noble and Walmart.com. Hashtag always promote. You know you're waiting for that. And
hashtag always promote your friends.
That's right. Always promote your friends, such as. But also, you know, my latest book, which was a huge hit, actually, I was very glad, was a reimagining of the Black Terror from the 40s. Except I made him African American, and I made it work, and I created this whole conspiracy theory thing, and I'm very proud of this. I've run it by several people I respect in the industry. I've gotten high. Read my reviews. In fact, one of my reviewers is in the queue here. I see you, Clyde, and also I ran it past Trevor Von Eden, the original penciler on Black Lightning. It's on Power Man and Iron Fist. He's a great Batman, beautiful, beautiful artist, a good friend of mine. And I gave him a copy, and I knew if anybody's going to cut me off at the knees for doing it wrong, he would do it. If you've read any of his Facebook posts, you know, he speaks his mind. And I thought, I'm giving him a copy of this, and I told him, I want you to give me your honest opinion. He thought I didn't go far enough. He thought I should be dropping N-words in there. I'm like, dude, you can get away with it. I can't.
Right.
But no, and also the fact is it annoys bigots to no end.
Yeah. That was the key thing that amazed me when the book first dropped.
Yeah.
And you start showing me on Comic Book Spectrum some of the comments some of these people were making. I was like, really?
Yeah. Tell me you're a bigot without saying you're a bigot.
Re-envision the world. It's like this. We're not talking about the original.
Right.
We're talking about a re-envision. Still, it ruined. It's like, no, it didn't.
Yeah. You were born 40 years after these comics came out. How did it ruin your childhood? And you see this, you know, and of course, I will say, and here's this, you know, it's not much of a scoop, but in 2025, if you like the Terrors, I'm going to be doing the origin of the terror, the twin terrors, and the origin of the cobalt scarab. And I've already got the first draft of the sequel.
Ooh. All out there on your Patreon.
Yeah, thank you. www.
See, hashtag always promote your friends.
I love you, Joe. So anyway, yeah. So if you remember, every time you buy one of my books in the terror series, an angel gets his wings and a bigot breaks down and cries. So there you go. So,
the tastiest, saltiest tears you ever drink.
They are my wine.
Brian's ambrosia.
That's right.
It's like I had to read at least 4 different Shakespeare plays by the time I got out of 8th grade. Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, it was 2 by the time I got out of high school, but we never really didn't have to do it in 8th grade. But
I got into high school and I had an English teacher who spent 20 minutes complaining that he was forced to teach Shakespeare because the school board made him. Then I took a class in college by someone who ate, slept, and breathed Shakespeare.
Major difference is it?
Huge difference. Huge difference. Yeah.
That's kind of way I kind of wish about Chaucer, because if I ever get a course that talks about Chaucer, because I want to understand the Canterbury Tales a lot better.
Yeah, I read Canterbury Tales a couple of times. I just found my old copy of it recently, and I think that's one I need to get back into too, because there's so many good stories in there. Yeah,
Maybe there are people graduating for the 12th grade in a few months that didn't even read. Yeah, because again, it's a whole different level. It's a whole different level of education now, because now education is more about technology.
Yeah.
And it's a different culture, because now they're bringing kids to be able to deal with technology more so. It's like the technology is going to get you past this stuff. There's no need for you to know how to really understand why 2 + 2 = 4 when you have a calculator or computer to do it for you.
Exactly. Yeah.
That what makes me wonder when people go into like engineering and stuff nowadays and have to do things like I had to go through for college, like discrete mathematics. Do they truly understand what they're learning, or is it way above their head and they just do whatever they need to do to get a passing grade? Because discrete mathematics was like one of those courses was extremely hard, but I got an A out of it.
Nice.
One of the higher grades in the class.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah, that breaks my heart. It should break everybody's heart, because that's just the way that things are. It's just like people are talking about dumbing down of society, and it's not really dumbing down of society. It's just the way that culture is moving.
Yeah.
When people are becoming beholden to the tools instead of people being able to master the tool, it's a big difference. It's a big story between the two. It's a big difference. It's a difference between being a master of the pencil or the master of a computer than the computer being a master of the person.
Exactly.
And there's Clyde. Yep.
Clyde. How you doing, Clyde? Good to see you.
We're trying to raise the tide here. Good old fashioned old school rising tide moments.
There we go.
Lainey, you will be happy to know that Beanie is in 2nd grade and reads at a 5th grade level. See, those are the types of things that you need to encourage here.
Yeah. And it has to start at home, I think. That's where I learned to love to read. My mom loved to read herself, and she was a very creative lady. I found out late in life she had plans before she got married she had plans to becoming a fashion artist.
No.
Yeah. And she's one of the people taught me how to draw. So, yay, mom. Sir Clyde.
Like, hey, yes.
The gold standard.
Yep, the gold.
Feel the love, Clyde. Feel the love. Feel the love.
I feel like such a freak now. I mean, I read Tolkien at least every year, and
cool.
Summarily on it's one of my favorites. Okay.
Yeah.
I came from the inside and stayed for the glomp.
I trust you have been well and truly glomped.
Yeah. It's like you know where to find us anytime you need to get called.
I remember
Hilarious here. Man, I love Chaucer. Yeah,
Mm,
it's like I got introduced in high school, but we didn't cover every last bit of Chaucer
yeah,
stuff. We only
yeah.
did like a handful of stories.
Well, some of them are a little spicy, so
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why they didn't allow us to cover a lot of them. Is
yeah,
because only a few of them that was.
yeah. Bad,
Yeah,
way bad. God, now you want to run down to the basement and grab my book.
Beanie will read anything. She will read the ingredients on the ketchup packet.
Hey! I learned to read from comic books and cereal boxes. Because back in the day, I don't think they do it now, but when they were owned by Ralston Purina, the Chex cereals
Right.
had that little faux newspaper on the back with all the trivia and the jokes and everything. The Checkerboard
Oh,
Express, remember?
I barely remember that because again, when you have
You might have been on the
when
tail
you
end
have
of it.
grandparents that love Chex cereal,
Yeah, yeah,
you will remember certain things like that here.
yeah. And my mom liked the Chex cereals, and that was one of the things that helped me learn to read. So
Leia, there's a couple of Tolkien books she might like:
yeah,
Bilbo's Last Song and Adventures of Tom Bombadil. Oh my goodness, she's going to talk about Tom Bombadil again.
nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that.
Elaine could talk about some Tom Bombadil.
Oh, I'm sure.
Tell you what, because again, Tom Bombadil is one of those characters in the whole Lord of the Rings that really needed to be talked about because technically he could not be corrupted by the One Ring.
Yeah, yeah. Nice.
But don't believe me because I haven't read every last one of those books here.
It's been ages since I've read Tolkien. I really need to get back into that. Yeah,
Yeah, along with the Rover Random as well as written for young readers. Yep.
yeah, yeah,
But getting back to the whole diamond thing and
yeah.
everything,
Them.
and to be quite honest, I don't know how to feel about the bankruptcy because a part of me wants to jump up and down and celebrate until I talk to some of my other creator friends who says like you shouldn't be that way because you got fellow creators that still owe money to,
Yeah,
and they're
yeah,
still in that catch 22 because what's going to happen when they can't get their books out into stores and what happens with this and this and
yeah,
they made me take that step back to
yeah,
be more empathetic. But
yeah.
at the
And
same time, it's like, how do you separate the empathy for your fellow creator
right.
as opposed to saying goodbye to bad practice?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, like I said, I don't. I honestly don't believe, especially now that Diamond is too big to fail. But you make a good point. They owe money, and not just to big creators. And here's another thing I'll point out: in if they have the money coming in and they got to please somebody by paying them, who are they going to pay? Joe Schmo and Schmo Comics Company that's being run out of his basement, or DC National or DC
Mm-hmm,
Warners?
mm-hmm,
They're going to pay the big boys first because that's really their bread and butter. Um, the indie, the green section, that's just kind of like, sprinkles on top of the cupcake. It doesn't really affect the flavor much, um, but it's there for you if you want it. Um, I don't want Diamond to go under. I've wanted from day one Diamond to do its job better. And if and the thing is, I'll also point out that when they screw up badly. Diamond. But it's like the post office. They may lose a letter, every now and then, but think of how many they get out on time and to the right place. So
well,
they make more home runs than they don't. But it's just that when they do the things like ship a broken statue
mm-hmm,
or are a week late because they forgot to put your, this one comic in the box that somebody has been waiting on and they're going to bitch for a week about it that they didn't get it on time and the other shops have it but they don't have theirs. There's just like a whole there's just, we've just created an environment for direct sales which uh I think direct sales came at the right time when the mom and pop groceries were starting to close and the avenues for wide distribution were vanishing.
Mm-hmm.
The direct sales, I think, saved comics, but then it became a monster of its own with the gate, especially when you boiled it down to one distributor and you had this one distributor who would be a gatekeeper, telling you, okay, you can have these indie titles, but they've got to meet certain standards, blah, blah, blah. And those standards were arbitrary. There wasn't like a written list of anything, all the little check boxes you have to cross off to make sure you had a comic that met their standards, So, and now I think with competition, I would like to see more distributors open up. I would like to see more because here's another thing. Back in the day when I was managing the Book Nook, let's say I needed something like a back order on something. I call Diamond, and my Diamond rep might be, who cares? I don't feel like going out of the warehouse today. Okay, fine. I'll call Capital City. Capital City would bend over backwards because they wanted my business.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted my whole account. And when I went independent, I went with Capital City, and then I could go to them. Oh, I didn't get this book. Well, I'll just call Diamond.
Mm-hmm.
You could literally pit them against each other, and that was good for for retailers. But since the '90s now, what could they say? Well, you shorted me on my entire X-Men run, and they could go like, well, what you gonna do?
That's the reason.
What avenues do you have to get it that don't come through me? So
exactly, and that's part of the reason why I wanted them to fail.
Yeah,
I want them to go away. But now what you're saying is like maybe I need to backpedal on that for that particular aspect, because to me the death of Diamond would definitely open up that door permanently for new competition and newer distributors to emerge to take over.
It might.
The other thing that bothers me about that, and maybe like I said, rolling my, if I could say, my gung ho-ness for Diamond to fail, was more because of the management. They went through so many different managerial changes. And the managerial changes went from original owners to head fund managers to all of these people who had nothing truly invested in comics, trying to take over a distribution chain and not understanding what was going on with the community at large. And that bothered me. That bothered me during COVID, where they just pretty much said, we're just shutting down everything. Nobody's doing anything. And I was like, well, here's the problem with that. Technically, it's not what we consider important products, but you're considered part of the supply chain. You can't just arbitrarily say we're shut down because of certain things. There got to be some contingency plans in place here. By you taking a stance of shutting down, what about that mom and pop store that still needs to be open, where they're in a state that allowed them to still do business up on the mitigation? They're not able to get newer books, which hurts their bottom line, which means that they can't pay their rent and everything, which now means that they have to rely on loans and all this other stuff here. All because of one decision from one manager, or I should say one CEO, I should say. I question, I question culture like that. And it makes me cringe, because like I could understand if it was something that was non-essential. Comics are not 100% essential, but it's also part of the supply chain as far as day-to-day entertainment, type deal. It's not something like bread, butter, eggs, and stuff to that magnitude that we have to get over here. It's not as important as like gasoline or medical supplies and stuff like that, but it's essential enough where if things that have already been warehoused months ahead of time, because you have to take into consideration, new books may not have been created during those months of the pandemic, not so much.
Yeah.
Because again, you have to send it out to a printer. The printer has to send it somewhere, and then it has to come back over, and yada yada yada. New
and
books
those printers
have,
couldn't go to work.
Yeah, no, new books would not probably get done in time, but things that have already been warehoused should still move.
Right.
And I think that's where I have a problem with a lot of the recent decisions and the different changes of management.
Yeah.
Between 2015 and 2022.
I agree. And I really think you made a great point with the COVID response to that, where they are saying, okay, we're not going to distribute anything. So then and that had a domino effect, because then the publishers are going, okay, put down your pencils. That was the phrase at the time, put down your pencils. And yet these guys and gals have to make the money in order to pay their bills, to eat, and even with Diamond going under, I'll make the point that there are still human beings that work in that business that would be, out of a job if Diamond went under. But, and that was a great time for independent comics, because we were the only people supplying product to stores that would find ways to remain open. Whether it was like, okay, I've got your comics, come to the door. I will wear a mask. I will come out to your car. I will, you give me your credit card. We'll run it, blah, blah, blah. We'll make the transaction. But yeah, I agree with you. And I have an issue also with the fact that Diamond has relied so much on retailers in a lot of ways, to bully it. Because I remember when the big companies were introducing electronic versions of their comics. And that's why I think they took a cue from regular publishing in this regard, in that, that's why if you were to go with what's left of Comixology, the books you get on there, although they're just ones and zeros, and you're just buying the right to own a electronic copy of it, they still charge you like the $3.99 or the $4.95, unless after a certain amount of time has passed, because the retailers, which are a dwindling number, unfortunately, that they're, yes, new stores open, but we're losing as many stores or more. They're saying, oh no, you can't do that. You've got to take care of us first. You can't let these other people, it's just like when the indie comics people are saying, we got to get rid of manga somehow. We got to stop it at the border, sort of thing. I would like to see Diamond, if they're going to push anything, figure out a way for retailers to make money off of ebooks. Because a lot of people I'm one of them. I like reading stuff on my Kindle. Yes, there's nothing like the feel of a comic, blah, blah, blah. But who reviews a comic because it smells good or it feels like the proper weight? The only time I ever hear that, this comic stinks. That's the only time, and you don't want to hear that. But, for people with vision problems, enhanced reading is a great way to read it panel by panel, still get the feel of everything. But it's easier on older eyes, and this is a demographic that's aging. So
I was going to add something that is the byproduct of the problem with ebooks.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with the customer.
Right.
It has everything to do with the publisher.
Yes.
Me being on Comixology, I know this for a fact. And
that's true. You're on.
Since it moved over to Amazon, it's even more of a glaring thing here.
Yeah.
One of the things that Comixology, from the very onset, when you submit your comic to them, one of the things you cannot have is advertisement.
Yeah.
There's no advertisement of no sort.
Yeah.
So you only get the comic itself. So when you have let's take like let's say Spider-Man Volume 2 issue 50, and you get it through Comixology, you get only the pages of issue 50. You do not get the advertisements whatsoever.
Yeah.
you're still getting charged the $3.95 or $4.95 or whatever the overall price is, because you're getting the overall intellectual property.
Right.
Marvel is going to complain about that because they're losing advertising dollars, and they're using the excuse about not having it in hand as a scapegoat to having people to see the advertisements. But what do I know? I know what I have to go through for publishing on Comixology for
I get that.
Close to like 15 years now.
Right.
So,
right. Yeah. So what do you know, right?
Yeah. What do I know? It's like, it comes back down to the bottom line. It's like the big opponent for digital comics is there's no advertising that can be done. Even with the way that they do like the guided viewing and all the other stuff to make things like you said, read easier. You could read it panel by panel or section by section and stuff to that magnitude. All of that stuff is nice, but it's what we consider commercial free. You do not get advertisements, and
to help defray the cost.
How do some publishers make their money? Advertisements.
Well, this is something like when I was a regular on Comic Book Spectrum, I was always, you and I were always, ragging about the fact that they're all mostly house ads now.
Mm-hmm.
It used to be like you'd get like a movie. Somebody would like advertise a movie, or somebody would advertise a new set of tennis shoes, or, become the world's deadliest man with Yubiwaza, that sort of thing.
Or hostess, a cereal ad,
cereal ad, a hostess, and how many of us love the Hostess Twinkies?
Yes,
ads, the comic characters. But
it's Hulk killing rollerbladers with cotton.
That stuff is classic. But it's like their advertising sections have, like I said, we used to go on about this a lot. The fact that they are not trying to defray the cost of their comic books, with advertising. And how many advertisers would love to be told, hey, listen, we're going to put you in our ebooks too. And that way your ads will also show up on like a service like Hoopla or Overdrive. See? So, I totally agree with you.
It has to be regulated. That stuff has to be regulated because of the simple fact that only certain ads can go on there. Because again, right now, Comixology does not allow that. I don't think Global Comics allows it.
Okay.
Because I'm on both. I'm on both Global Comics and Comixology.
Okay. All right.
And sadly to say, it's like my revenues from Comixology has like dwindled to like pennies on the dollar, because people could read it by page.
Yeah.
So I don't get the full cost of a book. I get the cost of how many pages that they actually read. Same thing for Global Comics. It's like people want to read per page. So if they're not reading the whole book on those platforms, I'm not going to get my full amount for buying the comic now. So it's just like it is what it is.
I get you.
And let me see what we got here, because I think the last thing about I think that was the last one where Thomas the Stuff here, and it's like goes bigger. I'm serious about that. Small publisher would get paid.
I would agree with you.
See, I stayed away from that term. I was
proud of you too.
You should be giving props to your Parallax. I have stayed away from my favorite term.
Did not hear it from you.
I always call marketeers and those who worry about the bottom line of business. I have stayed away from that term. You see, she tried to get me to say it. Nope. No, not just them. It sounds like management wasn't very certain about the quality of the service.
No,
probably.
No, I agree.
Evil publishers preach. Yep.
Yeah. Speaking as an evil publisher,
don't forget evil creators with their she got jokes. She got jokes now.
He said jokes.
Thanks, BK. I really appreciate about the enlarged panels on the digital comics. Yes.
Yeah. Glad to help.
It's like this. What happens,
we could do a show on that.
Writers, a scumbag. Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
And we talked about that a lot. We talked
Yeah.
about that a lot on Comic Book Spectrum this past Thursday,
Yeah.
dealing with a certain creator. And it needs to be done.
Yeah.
I just wish people had more empathy.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, to be quite honest here, because there's a lot of people who have gone through a lot of the trauma that was brought up from people of said creator ilk.
Yeah.
And even though they have created some great stories, some great titles, now they're muddled. And like I said, sad person who's in the chat right now can't look at a Sandman comic the same way. And now I can't look at Miracle Man in the same way either.
Yeah, that hurts. But same thing like with films. I was talking with another friend of mine about this, who was a film buff, and he was talking about, I still love the work of like Woody Allen, but he's, and then you've got and he was saying, I still love watching Rosemary's Babies. I just have to shut off that part of my brain that reminds me that the director, is also a scumbag. Roman Polanski.
No, I'm thinking Kubrick.
Well, Kubrick was,
only reason I think of Kubrick because of what he did to what's her face, Shelley Duvall.
Right. Yeah, I heard about that.
That was.
Oh yeah.
It's like no, it's like I understand that you want authenticity, but to go that far.
Yeah, but not drive a person to madness. Yeah.
No.
No, I agree with you. Totally.
I know for a fact that Clyde hated it, Kame, and loved Blue Beetle.
Come for the story, stay for the advertising. Yeah.
Dude, I tossed all of my stuff. Yep. I know. I mean, it's
only if they no longer bring you joy. I would say don't give any new money to them, because throwing out your books doesn't really hurt them, unfortunately.
Talking about that here.
Yeah.
I leave that to the individual.
I agree. It should be an individual decision. I'm still keeping my Sandmans. I'm going to probably reread them one day with my, holding my nose. But, but I know that my throwing them away will do nothing to repair anyone's life. It will not hurt the person who did the essaying. So, I'm, for the time being, I'm holding on to them. So.
It's like back then there used to be a lot of buy this crap kids ass. In the 90s we got pretty much it, yeah. Saying the ass, see the movie Nerf, get some Kool-Aid burst. Those Twinkie ass were fire. And sea monkeys. Yep.
Hell yeah.
Elaine, I hear you. Some people keep their books, but make sure that the author never get another cent from them. Yep.
Yep, I agree.
Yep, I'm a survivor. It's personal. You know what's the worst thing about not saying his name? All the bullshit he spewed about believing women and blah blah blah. Yep.
Yeah.
We it's like you should have known. You should have sold them because blank him. Yep. See, he still has it. He still
have the F-bomb. I still have the F-bomb.
Fearless Vampire Hunters was my favorite
Polanski
film. Can't watch it now.
That was so good.
Yep. Yeah. Well, we're almost at the 2-hour mark here.
Yeah, you invite me on the show, you better expect to go long.
Yeah, all up here. It's like, normally it's like, you know how the show used to be, because I used to do live streaming of working on the comics and everything, and the crowd disappears once I started to do that because they felt like I was ignoring them and everything. So we just been fully interactive here.
That's good. That's good. Oops.
That I can see that. That probably was so cute. It probably was
Yeah.
so cute. Just like in Two Stupid Dogs. It's so cute, but it's wrong.
My goddaughter, I've told the story before. I love this gal, but when she was like a year and a half old, my mother bought her one of those stuffed bears that was about as tall as she was. And while the adults are like talking, she's playing with this thing. Then all of a sudden, it's like you, and we're like, and I turned to her dad, and I'm like, she did not get this from me. And it turned out her mother explained that my goddaughter's front teeth were gone. She lost her baby teeth. She was trying to say thank you. And I'm like, okay, let her know we're grateful. Shut her up. This is like the late 80s.
Wow.
That word had not reached the level of respectability it has now. So.
No, I'm just thinking about losing that many front teeth. It's like, wow, that would have cost that much of a speech impediment. Wow, that's
it did apparently. That's why I'm going to tell people. Yeah, I lost my front teeth about 60 years ago. That's why I'm doing it.
Okay, I went to an American Gods reading long ago, and I thought to have that book signed somewhere. Ooh.
My copy signed too. Yeah.
Except me. Good show though. Everybody was laughing. It's like, yeah, so it ain't just me. Thanks, BKM. Yep.
You're welcome, Elaine.
Yep. So on that note,
yes,
Brian, tell them where they can find you and find the great book, The Terrors, and a lot of your underwears.
Well, you can go to Rising. You can go to risingtide.pub, where you can also sign up for my monthly email insider information newsletter. Also, Amazon.com. Almost any place online that sells books, Books A Million, Barnes and Noble, Walmart, a whole bunch of other places. And in fact, if your library has Hoopla, you can read The Terrors on there. I still make money, so you're taking care of me too. I love you. And anyway, check me out. We're taking a little hiatus from broadcasting for a little while, but otherwise go to risingtide.pub and you can keep up on all things me. And Joe, thank you so much for having me on here. This has been a joy.
It was your request because you wanted us to talk about what was going on with Diamond on Comic Book Spectrum, but I was already planning to do it here.
Yes,
I don't want to do double duty, and I know that you had a lot to say about it.
Oh, do I ever?
I can't. That's like I can't make it this Thursday. It's like come Saturday.
There we go. Yeah, Thursday was a bad one for me. So.
Yep. So let's see. We got JD saying good night. Good night, JD. Night, JD. Come by on Thursday if you can. And then BKL is going to take over Clyde Very and won't be back for 5 weeks.
Oh, no. I promise you I'm not taking anything over for the next 5 weeks.
He about to go broker another piece of cord over there at Clyde Very. But as far as the show is concerned, that's pretty much it for another week of here on Comic Book Spectrum. Next week, I'm not certain what we're going to cover here, but 9 times out of 10, we're probably going to cover something that probably is something probably big within the comic book industry, whether it be collecting, writing, or something to that magnitude. And yes, I have actually done comic book work here. I have actually finished another chapter of one of the stories in the adult anthology books here. So now I have no other excuse but to get back to Primetime Saturday Night number 5 and get some more of those pages done here. So I have been working. I told you guys to keep me accountable. I'm still being accountable here. So until then, live life, grow, and be well. And for old school purposes, we have to have the greeting.
Yes, we will. All right. Friends, again, thank you for your warm response to me. Joe, again, thank you for having me. Clyde and Leah, everybody, Elaine, everybody, Aaron is good meeting you. Everybody is on here. JD, thank you for supporting the show. And as always, folks, stay smart, stay safe, wash your hands, and never apologize for being awesome.
See, I cut that down a little bit shorter, but I always keep that last part. Never apologize for being awesome. So until next Saturday, we're out of here. Have a good rest of your Saturday, unless you're in the East Coast like Leia. You're already in Sunday, so too bad for you. We're out. See ya.